You're good to go, Bill.
Okay. So are folks seeing the slides?
Sir, yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So tonight's session is all about talking about the forward party. And to do that, we're going to start with 4 questions that we frequently get asked at different events. And some of you have asked them to me and when we've been on the phone and talking as part of that. So Matt Byers, one of our board members, is going to answer that. Michael Lockwood is planning on joining them. Hopefully he'll be here. And they'll go through those 4 questions. And then we'll move into just more general discussion topics. I'm going to start with who is our target audience and go through just a 10-minute discussion of where we think the greatest potential for growth is for us to become a significant political party in Maryland. And then from that, we'll go into, okay, if we're sitting next to somebody at a bar stool and a political discussion gets started, how do we talk about the forward party and see if they're interested? That could be a neighbor over a back fence, but in this scenario, we're just saying it's over a bar stool. So PJ Benedetti, our chair, and I each did a talk just how we do it from our point of view. And then PJ got a hold of me this afternoon and said, my customer has called a significant meeting and I'm not sure what I'm getting out of it. So if I'm not there, you got to do my talk too. So I may wear 2 hats tonight and first be Bill and then be PJ. And then we've got a bunch of handouts that we're going to give you at the end. And I'll just talk briefly about one of them, a slide deck. And Roseanne, it's a slide deck we used at our presentation at your session. Mm-hmm. And I've added a whole talk track to that. And we'll just talk about that a little bit. And then we'll just open it up for Q&A and discussion, turn off the recording as part of that. I'll also share with you just all the handouts that we're going to be giving you at our next meeting. And some of the feedback I'm going to be looking at, did we overwhelm you with the handouts, too many, or is this something we should be doing more of? So look for some feedback when you get those. And basically, I'll be doing an email to all of you with the link to this recording and a zip file with those handouts, and then also to the folks who RSVP but could not attend. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt, and I don't know if Mike has joined or not, Matt, but so we'll start with the first question. Haven't third parties messed up elections?
All right. Thanks, Bill. And Mike is here, but he said he's feeling a little rough tonight. So if he doesn't join in, I won't blame him at all. And I'll just talk. And I do want this to be a conversation because this is how we get our message across. I'm not going to talk for long, though, on each of these. But I would ask that everybody sort of stay on mute so that we don't get any background noise, and then ask questions sort of in the chat, and I'll keep an eye on the chat as we're doing it. So haven't third parties messed up elections? Yes and no. So and yes, that's kind of the point too. Just historically, one of interest that you may or may not be aware of that a third party messed up the election, the election of 1860. Which had 4 candidates running from 4 different parties and elected Abraham Lincoln. Yes, it's kind of messed things up, but in that case, I think that was a mess up in a good way. I think we'd all agree Abraham Lincoln was a great president. So it has the potential to mess things up under our current system, and that is the core of the problem. So when we ask this question, we need to ask not, is third party the solution, but really what is the problem that we're trying to deal with? And the problem is the overall structure of the system, which is why our focus isn't on necessarily running a presidential candidate or running, candidates to take over the majority. Our focus is on election reform and changing the way that we do politics through our 3 main focuses: ranked choice voting. I think we're calling them universal primaries now, or single primaries. We've had a lot of different names. We haven't quite settled on one yet. We're working on the messaging for that. But the idea is that all the candidates from all the parties run in the same primary, and you use RCV to select the top 4 or 5 candidates in the primary, and then the rest go on to the general election. And then independent redistricting commissions. So if we have those three things, if we use ranked choice voting, if we have universal primaries, and if we have independent redistricting commissions so that the people are choosing the politicians instead of the politicians choosing the politicians, then the question of haven't third parties messed up a number of elections becomes irrelevant. And so I think that's how I would answer that one. Yes, they have the potential to do that, but more I'm focused on changing the way we do politics entirely by making it a more fair system. All right. So the next question, were there any questions on the first one before we move on? Or comments or concerns? All right. So the next question is, what is the party of the, what is the platform of the Forward Party? And we get asked this question a lot. And the thing is, part of our moniker, the way that we bill ourselves, is a different kind of party on purpose, by design. And so this is kind of a hard question from our point of view, because we don't really want to have what most people would consider a traditional platform, because a traditional platform tells you what to think. So the Democratic Party says, we think this. If you want to, vote for us, this is what you need to think. And the Republican Party does the same thing. And the Green Party will do the same thing. And we don't want to do that. We want people to be able to think for themselves. And we want people to be able to choose the candidate that they think is appropriate. So we've kind of shied away from the idea of a platform of the Forward Party. However, as a result of discussions with people, we have come up with this, which is now on our webpage as of today. This is our organizational platform. And our organizational platform starts with a mission statement. And I will let you guys read this yourself. It's in the About Organizational Platform. So you can go up here, Organizational Platform, and you can read through it. And so we talk about our mission statement, what we're trying to do, basically what I told you before, redefining the political process. Yes, Bill.
It is going to be one of the handouts for them as well.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. And then we talk about our core values: more collaboration, less partisan conflict, better governance through problem solving. These are the things that we stand for as a team, protecting the rights of all people. And then we have a list of principles of conduct. The other parties don't have principles of conduct. They just say, this is what we believe in. This is our stance on this particular platform or particular issue. And we're not interested in establishing a particular stance on a particular issue, except for a few issues, and I'll get to those. But one of the things we're really interested in is how we conduct ourselves. Grace and tolerance, bottom-up solutions, displaying actions and language of unity, conducting oneself with dignity, and abstaining from derogatory strategies, just to name a few. Now, clearly, we have to stand for absolutely something. And so what are we going to stand for? Our legislative priorities, the things that we're trying to get enacted, are the things that we just talked about: ranked choice voting, single all candidate primaries, or maybe we'll change this to universal primaries. We're still, like I said, workshopping the name on that. It hasn't quite struck home with everybody yet. Independent redistricting commissions. The one I didn't mention yet is legislative vacancies reform. This is particular to Maryland, in the way that when there are legislative vacancies, how those vacancies are filled. And lastly, we talk about prioritized community issues. And here, once again, we are not telling people what those community issues are. We want to hear from the people. So what we're proposing is that we set up various communities, such as rural, suburban, urban, faith communities, immigrant residents, LGBTQ+, parents and guardians, racial and ethnic minority groups, seniors, small businesses, specially abled, unions and professional associations, veterans and veterans' families, women and young voters, all of which are going to be set up in the very near future as communities for people to get involved with, so that they can talk to us about what their issues are. And we can produce a list, a prioritized list of what their issues are. And that way, it's not this small group of people from the Maryland Forward Party board that are telling you, what we stand for as a party, but it's the party itself, going back to our bottom-up solutions. So the people involved in the party. And the underlying part of this is that even when we have a stance on a particular issue, the candidates themselves in the Forward Party have the freedom to choose their solution to those problems and to tell you what that is, and for you to vote or not vote for them. So it's all about voter education and voter choice. Hope that answered that question. Questions, comments, concerns? All right, let's see. How do I get back to the one that Bill was showing? I can stop presenting. Will it go back, Bill? Can you present yours again? I think it's already there. Oh, oops. Guys, I hope I'm not boring you. That's not the goal here. Need me to get it, Bill, or you got it? There we go. Okay. Next question we get often is, don't election reforms need to happen at the national level? The answer is absolutely not. And that's, yeah, it seems rather definitive and maybe a little forceful even. But the truth is, elections are controlled at the state level. That's in the Constitution. So election reforms need to happen on a state-by-state basis. And the state government decides what the election platform or mechanism is. So Alaska uses ranked choice voting, and it uses all candidate primaries. And Maryland uses closed primaries, and Virginia uses open primaries. And there's all sorts of different ways to do it. California has a jungle primary that isn't really quite fair because the Republicans don't participate in it. There's all sorts of different ways to do the elections, and they're all done at a state-by-state level, and so they need to be decided at the state level, not at the national level, which is why we're focused on the Maryland Forward Party and how we're going to bring it about. Yes, Bill?
And also some things happen at the city and council level.
Absolutely, they happen at the city and council level when the state government allows them to happen. So in Maryland, there's one particular municipal district, Tacoma Park, that is allowed to use RCV for its local elections, for the municipal elections. That had to be actually ratified at a state level. So they had to be allowed to do that at the state level. There's currently a bill before the House of Delegates and the state Senate to allow Montgomery County to use RCV. That will probably fail again. But these things are controlled at the state level, not at the national level. Any questions, comments, concerns about the previous question before we move on? Just want to make sure I'm not cutting anybody off. All right, feel free to type them in the chat. If you do, I'll come back to them. Are you a political party in Maryland? Again, yes and no. So yes, we are a 527 political party, nonprofit organization filed in Maryland appropriately. And we have an organizational charter and a board and bylaws and all that kind of stuff. And so technically we are a political party according to the federal government. The state of Maryland does not recognize us as a recognized political party until we've collected enough signatures and validate those signatures to be certified by them. So that is a minimum of 10,000. We of course want to aim for more than that because the current parties in power have no reason to allow additional parties, and they don't want additional parties, so they try to strike off as many names as possible. As a matter of fact, there is a bill before the House and the Senate at the moment in Maryland to say that if a political party doesn't get the required number of signatures by even one signature, that they have to start all over and they can't use any of the previous signatures. So they are absolutely desperately trying to make it harder and harder for additional parties to get status. But we are a registered political party with the federal government, and from a 527 nonprofit point of view, and we are not yet recognized as a political party in Maryland, so we can't run candidates with a forward, an F in front of their name or behind their name or wherever it is. How do I do, Bill? Questions, comments, concerns?
So thank you, Matt. So we really, again, want to encourage folks that if you have questions, you can do it one of three ways. You can unmute yourself and start asking and interrupt us, and that's fine. You can hit the hand raise button at the bottom of your screen, like I did a couple times for Matt, and that will stop us as part of that. And you can also put it in chat. So Julie, go ahead.
Julie's got a question. Julie, you want to say it out loud, or you want me to read it for you?
Go ahead and read it.
Okay, so Julie's question is, how many more signatures do we need? And it's a very good question, and of course, it's a complicated answer. The answer to the question is, at this very moment, we need about, at minimum, 8,000 signatures. We spent the last 2 years running around to events, trying to talk to people like you, and that is a very long and arduous process. We got a lot of people, sorry, your audio isn't working, Julie. We got a lot of people who are interested, a lot of people who signed up, but talking to each person takes about 5 minutes, so it took us much longer than we would have liked. A minimum 5 minutes per person for a conversation. So yeah, sounds great. Like, we've got 2,000 signatures, we only need 8,000 more, except that there's a rolling loss of that signature, or a rolling expiration, there's a good word, of that signature. And so after 2 years, that signature is no longer valid. So in addition, we have to make sure that the person is signed up for the correct, on the sheet for their county. And so we probably have to go back and do some of those. So the answer is, unfortunately, we're not very far along on the signatures yet, but we actually have a solution for that. But as all solutions like this go, it takes money. So the way these things generally get done is somebody hires a professional signature gatherer to go out and collect the signatures that you need for your petition. So we're concentrating this year on expanding our network, talking to people like you in this way, getting people like Roseanne to have events, getting people like Peter to have events at his house. I'm going to hold an event at my house next month, and expand our network and get more people involved. And we've seen a large increase in that in the past month or so that we can then get that network to all sign together at the same time. So that is kind of our goal at the moment. Roseanne, did you have a question? You look like you raised your hand.
Yeah, well, I did, but it was about this signature gathering company that you can hire. So, have you decided whether or not that's something that you want to bring up with when you talk to groups?
So we're trying. We have talked to people about that in the past, and we're trying not to focus on money at the moment. So we're focusing on, because that would require about $80,000.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a concern there that, okay, let's say we go ahead and get our signatures and we've paid all this money, and we don't have the infrastructure or the volunteers involved to be able to then support the party once it actually gets up and running. Mm-hmm. So thinking about what we did over the past 2 years and the potential for getting signatures, we're thinking the best thing to do is do what I just mentioned and build that network. And then once we've got the network and we can show how strong the network is to bigger donors who are then interested in seeing us happen. Like, once we can say, we've been talking about how people should self-identify as members. But once we can say, we've got 20,000 members in the state or something like that, people are going to be very interested in helping us become a political party. Then we can pay for the signatures, get them all done at once, that kind of thing. In the meantime, anybody who's interested, you can make a donation anytime you want. It can be $5, $10, $20, whatever's convenient for you. You can do it one time, you can do it monthly. It's right on our website, and every little bit counts and will go toward supporting events. and supporting things that we do. So none of us as board members get paid a single penny. We are all just volunteers.
Thanks, Matt. And when we get to the end, if folks think of other questions, we can certainly come back to any of this as part of that. Before I jump to the next topic, I just have a request. So Chris and Kristen, I don't have you on the RSVP list. If you want to get the handouts that we're going to be giving on this, if you wouldn't mind putting your email address in the chat, I can just make sure we get that to you and can follow up with you if you want to. So thanks for that. So the next thing we're going to talk about is who is our target audience? Who do we think represents the getting to be a significant political party in Maryland, where we're not just another lunatic fringe, but we're attracting a significant portion of the audience. So we had a discussion on that a little over a month ago that at the board level that folks liked. So I'm going to go ahead and share that with you now, and I'm going to stop sharing and restart sharing a different screen. So are folks seeing that screen?
Yes.
Great. So question is, who is our target audience? Who do we want to be talking to as part of this? I'm not advancing my screen here. Not sure what I'm doing wrong here, so bear with me a second.
Bill, if you drop the link to the presentation in the chat, I'll go ahead and run it for you.
Unfortunately, that's on my drive. So I can't do that. So let me try one other thing. And
sorry, I was trying to be helpful.
yeah, good idea. I should have done that. Grr.
Looks like it's a video, Bill.
Yeah, I'm.
Sorry for the technical difficulties, folks.
There we go. Okay.
Excellent.
Sorry, folks seeing that now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So how do we become a major political party? So in my work for over 50 years in the high-tech industry, I saw and worked for a number of companies who had some great technology, had some early success, but despite how great their product was, they never somehow caught on and became the next Google, the next Microsoft, the next Oracle, whatever, as part of that. And a really interesting book was written by Jeffrey Moore called Crossing the Chasm that talked about why so many successful companies couldn't get to that success. And going back and looking at that, I saw a lot of parallels in terms of starting a political party as making and getting that to be a significant factor, as well as in the commercial marketplace. So the Crossing the Chasm says that your audience really fits into a number of groups. You start with innovators, people who come up with the idea and see the need and see the technology, or in this case, see what's needed to address the political problems that we have. And they put that together and go out and get some folks interested and excited about that. They become the early adopters, the early customers, and get some initial success. But to get from that to the mainstream marketplace, which is kind of half early majority and half late majority, that's just a huge jump that many organizations haven't made, and what we as a party need to make as part of that. So we're going to look at what are the differences. So what do innovators look like? To them, politics is a central interest in their life, and they're aggressive about new ideas, and they're intrigued with the ideas of fundamental changes or advances in the political process. And then the early adopters are visionaries who buy into that concept. They're not politicians, but they find it easy to imagine and understand and appreciate these new ideas and what it can do for them. These concepts are seen as change agents that address concerns that they have, things that they want to see changed, and this is the way maybe we can make something happen. And they get interested and want to get involved with that. They're not terribly concerned that there aren't a lot of well-established references. If this makes sense to them, that makes all they need for them to get involved and get established. They're comfortable with a radical discontinuity between the old and new, and that things have to change. We just can't keep doing things the way that we've been doing. And they understand that, there's a lot of entrenched resistance out there that needs to be overcome. And in this case, two political parties, which essentially own the election process, are very entrenched and see any changes as a major threat. So I suspect that the majority of folks on this call are early adopters. We may have one or two innovators, and we may have one or two just kind of dialing in who are more in the early majority. So what does that early majority look like? So that's that first large group. And if we're going to become anything significant, we've got to have a message that gets those folks interested and participating in what we're trying to do and become a mainstream political party. So they're a much larger group than the early adopters, and they are fundamentally different. And what gets early adopters interested and early majority interested are very different. So early majority are risk-averse pragmatists. They want to improve existing things and minimize discontinuity. New ideas often fail. So the question about political third parties, or lunatic fringes or people who screw things up, that's the mindset. And if we start a conversation with we're a third political party, they're likely to shut down right there and stop listening because that doesn't make sense to them. They want things that work and that don't require major changes, and they want to see some sort of predictable progress towards getting there, as opposed to, we don't want to rip it up and start over again. They don't want things that require amending the Constitution. What can we do that can get us there in a reasonable amount of time and have some impact as part of that? They want some well-established successes, but early adopters are not reliable references. They're interesting, but not important at this point in time. They have some interest in new concepts, but it needs to be practical. It needs to enhance. They don't want to rip and replace. So what we need to do, if we want to get those people interested and have a conversation with them, is we need to understand their values. What are they concerned about? What don't they like? And what ideas might they consider in terms of being of interest to them? Once we get their interest, they can be loyal, but we've got to talk their language and be able to get them seeing the kind of same things we see as, yeah, this is something that's worth working for. To do that, we need to be conversant with their issues. We need to be at their events. We need to be mentioned in the newsletters and blogs that they're reading. And if we're out there publicizing things and but it's not what they're reading, then they don't even know who we are, and it's not something they're paying attention to. So, there. That's what we need to be thinking about as part of that. They're going to be particularly concerned about the stability of the party they're joining, the quality ideas and goals of that party, and does this make sense? So if I was doing this presentation to a set of early majority, and it took me 5 minutes to get my slides to advance, I would have lost enormous credibility. Okay, come back when you got your act together, Bill. So we need to really be putting our things together and doing things in the right way to get their interest, that we know what we're doing, and establish that early confidence with them so they can be comfortable with living with these kind of changes in a long time. So beyond that early majority, there's the late majority, the laggards, and really they're not of interest to us for at least 5 years. If we're going to be successful, we've got to get significant participation from the early majority. And if we do, we'll become a political party, we'll get the membership needed to maintain that political party, and we can do some of the significant things that we want to do. So how do we get there? First and foremost, we got to be talk about what's important to them, not what's important to us. So look at 2 different blog posts here. The one on the left is Maryland Forward, Maryland Forward, Maryland Forward, Maryland Forward. It's talking all about the things that are important to us. The one on the right is an empty chamber and a headline, appointed, not elected. It's talking about things that could be important to them. It's for those of us who've been doing this for a couple of years, it's easy to talk about the things we like, the things we're excited about. We've got to think differently. We've got to be thinking about what is important to folks. What are they annoyed at, upset about, concerned about, and how do we start a dialogue and get to a common ground with them? So to do that, we've got to get agreement on a problem. We've got to get into a conversation about, well, what are some things we can do about that make sense, that aren't rip and replace, that are doable, and are things that they can understand and think, this is something that A, would be good, and B, is possible. And then be working at the local level. As Matt said, we can do things at the city and county level and make things happen there, get the attention in Annapolis, get things approved as part of that. But the more we can build that grassroots support, the more we'll have a chance to get this adopted. And the idea that we're not waving our flag and trying to make big publicity at the national level, okay, which does nothing except get some ripples in the water, but we're trying to do grassroots things, build a foundation as a party and get the membership. That's the kind of practicality, step-by-step things that folks can understand and appreciate. And then with that, then we can start to ask them, are you willing to help us? Are you willing to help us with some time? Are you willing to help us with some money? So that's the overall message approach that we're looking to take as part of this. So let me pause there for folks with any comments or questions before we jump into just a couple of examples of how we would take these ideas in terms of a discussion with folks. So let me open it up to the floor for any thoughts or comments or questions that folks have. Okay, I'm either being brilliant or I put you to sleep. Go ahead, Roseanne.
So I have lots of questions because I'm going to be, standing up in front of a group of people here in another couple of weeks. And I can imagine them saying, okay, this Forward Maryland has been a group for 2 years. What have you accomplished in the 2 years tell me what they've done, what has been accomplished. And you're telling me all of where you want to go. And I see that, that these these kinds of voting changes are the first steps, but I'm sure I'm going to have people say, how many people have you, have you attracted, and how many, what's your leadership look like, and and what have they done? What has been accomplished in 2 years?
Do you want me to take that one, Bill?
Please.
Okay. So great question, Roseanne. And let's see, where do we start? Let's start with who are our people? You can, Bill, I'm going to go ahead and share and go back to the website really quickly.
Sure.
And show folks around just a little bit because I think this is really relevant about our team. So we've got our team here, and these are all elected board members. And we've got stuff we've done along the way. We've got candidates. We're currently supporting Tanya Sweat for Prince George's executive, and we elected Janie Monnier to the Board of Education in Frederick, and we elected James Cole to the City Council in Laurel. We've had several other candidates along the way. We've had mixed success, but that's the kind of thing that we've done there. Other things that you could point to as far as what we've done, we've got our events. These are the current events that we've got scheduled, and then there's all these past events here, of which there are a bunch. We've been at lots of different Pride festivals. We've held book clubs. We've done lots of different things. These are all the way back to 2023. So you could talk to people about some of those. We've also got a set of blogs where we've taken stances or made comments or what have you about all the things that we've been doing and all the things we believe in. We've been collecting signature petitions. What else? We've established resources for volunteers, which is a whole separate page. Oh, I got to log into it to get there, so I'm not going to do that right now. And we've got, openings for volunteers for what people can get involved in. And one of the things that you're asking about, how many people do we have? We've got a list of supporters, and that's great. These are people that have said, yeah, we think this is great, but that is probably significantly different from the number that would actually consider themselves members of the Maryland Forward Party. And so technically, we don't have members because we don't have status as a recognized party. So you can't register as a forwardist with the Board of Elections. But we're going to, in the very near future, have a way for people to self-identify as members. And that will help allow them to participate in the process of running forward. In other words, electing board members. And that will help answer that question. So I can give you the numbers
basically,
now.
basically it sounds like you've, I should say, well, the past 2 years has been spent looking for people who are interested in this, finding people who are willing to take leadership roles and putting the organization together. Essentially,
Yeah,
that's
we spent a lot of time building up the infrastructure. It takes a lot to start up a political party. People don't realize how many little bits and pieces there are along the way. Even something as simple as opening up a bank account takes forever. Because you have to justify to the bank who you are and why you are. So you need your bank account so that you can go out to events. And we've been out to, I don't know, probably 50 different events in the last 2 years. And I'm guessing at that number. I'd have to actually look up how many actual like Pride festivals and other kinds of festivals we went to, because we went to a lot of them to talk to a lot of different people. I don't have those numbers on hand at the moment over the last 2 years. I did a summary at the end of 2023, but that's not valid anymore because now we've gone through all of 2024 and PJ did a summary in 2024. So I'd have to collate all that data. But the point is, we have been doing a lot building up our infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We're at that early adopter point. We've got, folks interested. This makes a lot of sense. And now we've got to cross that chasm, and we've got to get the significant early majority seeing they're not happy, okay, and seeing us as a viable way to help address the concerns that they have. And that's really what we're focused on tonight. So the next thing we're going to do is go through 2 examples of, how we explain that and try and get somebody interested. So I'm sitting on a bar stool and somebody sits down next to me and discussion gets a little bit in politics. So, how do we start that discussion? And I was going to do one 5-minute discussion and PJ a second, kind of showing two different perspectives. But PJ's tied up and not able to be here. So I'm going to wear two hats. At first, I'm going to be Bill, and then I'm going to go over and be PJ. But just to give you just two different perspectives on that. So when I go through mine, I'm going to
Well, let's try to do it a little faster in 5 minutes so that people can have time to answer some questions or ask some questions at the end of this, because we're about 10 minutes left.
Okay, we'll certainly go as quickly as we can, and certainly we if folks have to drop off, we can, but we'll certainly stay on a little bit longer as needed for that.
Absolutely.
So, what I'll do is, as I go through this, is where I ask a question to kind of get somebody involved in the conversation. I'll pause briefly for that and then continue on. So start with the conversation. Are you happy with the results in the November election? When was the last time you were excited to vote for a candidate for national office? For me, it was back all the way when Ronald Reagan ran for re-election. Who was the last national candidate you were excited about? The Democrats and Republicans have built a wall around the electoral process. Over 20% of the registered voters in Maryland are independents, but for years they've been locked out of any participation of who's on the ballot. Those of us who are moderate Democrats or moderate Republicans are increasingly being left out as well. We pay for the primaries, but the two major parties totally control who gets to be on the ballot. It's not just Trump. For years, Congress has approval ratings of about 20%, but the re-election rate is 94%. How do they stay in office when we voters are very unhappy with them? Is Congress going to enforce the separation of powers at the heart of our Constitution, or are they just going to bow to Trump? I joined a new political party called the Forward Party. Their motto is not left, not right, forward. It's different than any other political party in several ways. First, we're doing a grassroots effort support to get people elected at the city, county, and state level who support election reform. We've not been involved in any national candidates. Second, we don't have a platform on issues like immigration, the Middle East, abortion, Ukraine, the economy. Platforms like each of the major political parties have forced people into one size fits all. How many people agree on the same thing for all those 5 issues? We believe the focus should be on getting intelligent and ethical candidates elected who make good decisions, even if some of us don't always agree with all our decisions. Would you be interested in hearing a little bit more about some of the things we think can happen in Maryland? The first thing we're working on is a way to get better ways to pick the winner in the elections. The winner should be people who have the majority of votes. Have you heard about ranked choice voting? Tacoma Park already has ranked choice voting, and 3 other Maryland locations, Frederick, Rockville, and Hyattsville, are all working to get that approved and implemented as a better way to identify the top candidates at both primaries and the general election. Ranked choice voting is one of several approaches that are better than plurality that we have now, but right now that's the one that has the most support here in Maryland. Number 2 is in all candidate primaries. This idea has also been called open primaries by some supporters, but there have been some issues in the way open primaries have been implemented. So the name Alaska is given it for their very successful implementation, an all candidate primary where a state has one single primary, all the registered voters get to vote, and all the candidates are on that ballot. That's what we support and are looking to get implemented here in Maryland. And when you've got all those candidates to choose, who's the final 4, of the final 4, which one the majority of voters want, that's where you need a tool like ranked choice voting to make that happen. The voting machines in Maryland today can support ranked choice voting if it's adopted. Our number 3 priority is legislative vacancy reform. Are you aware that 50 people in the Maryland legislature, 25% of all the seats, are filled with people who did not run for office? For example, on August 12th of last year, Teresa Warman was sworn in to be the next delegate for Maryland's 16th district, replacing Sarah Love. Warman received 14 votes. She was appointed by a committee, and the people she represents in that district had no voice in her selection. The legislature is currently considering a bill that will require special elections to fill those seats, and we are strongly supporting that, and has got some support and has a chance maybe to get passed. Our last priority right now at the tactical level is independent redistricting. The map of congressional districts in Maryland is a map of where Democrats live. They're the party in power. And they've defined the districts that put most of Republicans, just a few districts. So all the others, the Democrats have the majority and they'll win the majority of seats. We want to see an independent commission that defines logical districts for our state. Would you like to know more about the Forward Party? We're building an organization that's working on getting some significant improvements in the election process and would love to have your support. So that's one intro. And again, this one and the next one I'm about to do will be handouts to you as part of that. So go ahead, Kristen.
Sorry, I didn't, you should finish. But I think for someone, I will say, someone who dabbles in ADD, you lost me after 2 minutes.
Okay.
That was a lot. And I'm new. So I'm only interjecting that I think you're going to lose a lot of people because I think that's a lot. But I wanted to introduce myself. So I wanted you to finish and like I was going to come in at the end. So anyway, yeah.
I agree. I was trying to go quick in terms of what Matt said, and
Yeah.
he is, asking the questions when people it needs to be a dialogue, okay? And based on the answer, you go different places as part of that.
There was great information there, but I think if you sat down on a bar stool, I'd probably tune out after like a minute or two.
Okay.
I think you got to bullet point it, but I don't want to, you guys don't even know me. So I want you to finish. I apologize. I was literally just going to hop on and introduce myself. So you finish and I'll get on later.
So
Sorry.
let's start with don't apologize. We appreciate the fact that you're here and that you provided valid feedback. I think that's great. And I agree. If Bill rambled on like that for 5 minutes with somebody on a bar stool, that'd be awful. That he'd totally lose them. Bill's just trying to provide a lot of information.
Yeah, and it was great info.
And no, it's not expected that you read that verbatim.
Yeah. And I think the second one PJ was going to do was where that person on the other bar stool really responds and is interested and starts going into a lot of who is the Forward Party, what are we doing, what are our successes, and part of that. And again, that's even more reading. So we're going to have both of these as a PDF handout for you to look at and kind of be more familiar with as part of that. So go ahead and so I'm not going to read it in the interest of time. We'll go ahead and move on from that. But Courtney, so are you targeting younger voters at all? Absolutely. I think there's a number of different communities that we're really looking to target. One, we talked a little bit at the start, is the senior community, and Roseanne's helping us, get started with that. We have 2 high school students as volunteers and a couple of college students helping us, and we want to get on the college campuses and be able to talk with them as well. We're also trying to set up other communities, veterans, government employees, grandparents, parents with children, what are our communities within our organization that share things, and how can they get together and help us address the needs and questions that group has. So younger voters is one of several groups we started with, and that's where National is leading us. National has a monthly meeting of just young voters, and we're getting our folks involved with that.
Right. And it was on the list that I rattled off earlier. That's on our organizational platform, but I don't expect you to have remembered that or to follow it. So please go and look at it and take the time to see all the different areas that we want to hear from. So young voters, absolutely, we would love to find. We are starting to make inroads into college campuses. Like Bill said, we've got a couple of high schoolers that are interested, that want to set up clubs in their high schools and such. We would love to have any more contacts with the young voter community. As a matter of fact, Adam Weiss, who's also on this call, is our liaison to the young voter.
Yeah, I don't think I'm considered a young voter anymore. But I know a good amount of contacts within the therapy world who have a lot of clients that are young voters, and there's so much frustration and sadness and fear and apathy. So I think, having something that feels hopeful might be really important. And so I'm not probably the one to be yes, young voters, but I know there's a huge group there that would maybe want something different than just choose the lesser of two evils.
And I'm sure Adam would love to talk to you about it, maybe
Yeah.
offline, and figure out how we can help connect those two communities together.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because we've seen a lot of polarization even on campuses right now, where you kind of reach out and you see like they're two different camps, and they're not interested in hearing something reasonable like we are.
Yeah.
Sometimes. But yeah, so wonderful. Yeah, hope to connect soon.
And to Kristen's point about too much information at once, I think what was really important about Bill's list of things and the way he talked about it was that he was asking questions. I think we should be asking questions of people, because the moment we start saying what our opinion is, they stop listening to us. But if we ask questions, even if they're sort of leading questions, sometimes we'll get them talking and we'll get them thinking, and then we can ask the next question, because then they'll answer us, right? And then they'll be interested in having and engaging in a conversation. And again, remember that we're interested in more conversation and less conflict. And how do you deal with the polarization? Conversation is a big part of that. The other part of that, RCV will make a major step toward eliminating political polarization, because if a candidate only appeals to their base, then they're only going to appeal to their base, and they're going to lose unless they happen to have a base that's 51% or more. But most people don't have that to start with. And so when you have RCV or something like it, you have to appeal to people to be their second choice, to be their third choice. And we've seen this actually happen in Tacoma Park and be effective. And the mayor of Tacoma Park tells a story, which I won't go into right now, that talks directly to that. So it encourages, I don't want to say forces, it encourages candidates to appeal to a broader audience and not to appeal just to their base. And so then you get more people talking. So sorry, Bill.
Right on what we're looking at here. Our goal tonight is to share some ideas and thoughts. So as you talk to people, you get more comfortable in doing that. And first and foremost is, you're going to have a good conversation. There's got to be a common ground that you have for that. So find that common ground, and we start with a couple of questions and see, where are the frustrations? And what have you heard about? And got questions about what have you not heard about? But establishing and maintaining and having that discussion on the common ground, and use your voice. So I've done this a couple of times, and when I talked about the last person I was excited about was Ronald Reagan, get people volunteering their thoughts. The most common one is Barack Obama, but that gets us talking about and sharing different things, and that's what we want to get, is that conversation, and then we can find ways of agreement, and is there interest in following up and getting them more information and more involved. If ask a question that we don't know the answer about, okay, hey, that's great. Let me get you an answer. Let me get you to the right person who's going to do that, and leave things on a positive note.
So Eamon wants to ask a question, but two things first. One, Courtney, directly to your question, Mike posted a link in the chat to the Young Forwardists. And then Roseanne, to your previous question, Mike reminded me that we also did submission of testimony for bills for the past 2 years. So that is another accomplishment that we did. And then I'm going to turn over to Eamon. Sorry for cutting you off there.
No problem. I missed the first 20 minutes or so. So I didn't know if, first off, if Matt Himes is on the call, and second off, if you've talked at all about the special election on Tuesday.
Matt isn't on the call this evening, and I did mention and showed that we were supporting Tanya Sweat for Prince George's County Executive. I didn't go into it in a huge amount of detail, but Tanya, who is a former member of our board, or current member of our board, actually, she hasn't resigned, is running for election in Prince George's County to be county executive in the special election now that Angela Alsobrooks has become senator. So if any of you are from Prince George's County, we highly encourage you to vote for her. It's a vote for a different kind of candidate. And she's an excellent candidate with good track record. And she came in second against Angela Alsobrooks last time.
If I can just add for a minute or two.
Please.
the special election coming up is going to be very low turnout, and our candidate is not well known in well, she's not currently serving on the council like it seems every other one is, but this is one way that we can really show with action what we're all about. And so if anybody is interested, I'm willing to meet up beforehand and drive people over there, even if necessary. But if anyone's interested in volunteering on a campaign to see what this is all about, then you get a chance this weekend, Monday or Tuesday.
Perfect.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, Eamon.
Two last quick things, and then we'll just stop the recording and open up for discussion. So idea is to help you be more comfortable and being able to talk at the 1 minute level, the 2 minute level, the 5 minute level. So we've got a bunch of handouts that going to be sending you. So the talk I did, the talk PJ planned to do, we have PDFs of those. The slides I showed of crossing the chasm and kind of who we're trying to talk to and how we try to organize that discussion is there. Also, we did a whole presentation to Roseanne's community about the 4 priorities that we have. What is election reform? So we've taken those slides. They're a draft, first cut, and we're constantly working to make them better. But we added a set of speakers' notes to each of the pages. So the PDF has got the slide and the notes. So what more are we saying about ranked choice voting? What more are we saying about an all-candidate primary? That's there to help you. So it's just read and understand and get more informed as part of that. The organizational platform that Matt went through is there as part of that. And then also we'll include a link to the recording. So the first 4 will be in a zip file, and then that link to the recording. So want to get that to you and give you more things to learn, be interested. If you've got questions, love to hear them, but helping you get some more folks interested as part of this. If any of you aren't involved and would like to get involved in helping us, I'm happy to have a 30-minute call with you. In just a second, I'll plug my email address into the chat to reach me. Again, if you've got an email inviting me to you, you can respond to that. That's the way to reach me. But just talking about different ways that we need some help, and if any of those are of interest to you. One of the big things we're working on right now is our website redesign. Some of the pages that showed you as part of that. And in particular, we'd love to get some more help with folks who have the skills to write the back-end code. So we can, everybody's got jobs, everybody's got family. We know there's only some time you have available to us. So you can split that out amongst some different people. That's just going to make it easier. And any other help is certainly appreciated. So, any of those areas that you are interested in, want to get involved in, let me know, and love to get you involved. Last thing is, our next meeting is going to be Wednesday, the 26th of March. And I think we're going to have a pretty interesting topic. What's the Maryland Forward Party position on the constitutional crisis that we may be facing? If any of you are on social media, it's a flood of people, waving the flags that this is the greatest 3 months we've had in the history of the country, and this is 3 months we're headed down the toilet and things are a total disaster. We've got polarization, but we've got a whole lot of people, highly emotional on this topic. So, and that's certainly a question that I get asked is, what can we do? What are you guys doing? So we're going to have some of our different members talk about their thoughts of where we are and what we can do. It's not an attempt to bash Trump. It's just an attempt to talk about where are we and what can we do. And as a political party, what can we and can't we do as part of that? So get you more information out about that, but happy to have you invite some other folks. Just be interested in hearing some good discussion. And like we had tonight, definitely hope folks will get involved, share some of their thoughts as part of that. So with that, I'm going to turn off the recording and then open it up for any other comments, questions that folks have as part of this.